It's 6 o'clock Verizon time. Start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for May 22nd, 2025. Can we have roll call?
Trustee Ulrich?
Here.
Trustee Unger?
Here.
Trustee Waller?
Here.
Okay, and is there a need for an executive session?
Yes, Madam Chair. Would ask for a motion for the board to go into an executive session in accordance with ORC Section 121.22G1 to discuss appointment of a public employee, and that the board go into an executive session in accordance with ORC 121.22G3 to discuss pending or imminent litigation.
Okay,
I'll move to enter executive session on the Ohio Revised Codes exceptions that Mr. McElravy laid forth.
I will second Matt's motion.
okay,
Trustee Ulrich?
yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Okay, we will see everybody back here at 7. Thank you.
Trustee Ulrich?
Here.
Trustee Unger? Here. Trustee Waller?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McElravy, is there anything to report from executive session?
No, Madam Chair, there is not.
Okay, thank you. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we sit down, we'd like to have a moment of meditation. It is Memorial Week, and we would like everybody to keep in our hearts and our prayers all of those who have died protecting our rights and freedoms to live in the USA. Also, keep the memory and cherish all of our loved ones that have passed. Thank you. Okay, we have approval of minutes.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
I'll motion to approve. Yeah, I'll motion to approve the minutes as provided by Mr. Baker.
Yes, sorry. Mr. Tiffany Baker.
And I will second Matt's motion, and I believe that is for the May 6th meeting.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Correct. All right. Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Okay, now we have a presentation from REDI.
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Gavin Campbell is here from REDI to present on their new strategic plan.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi there. My name is Kevin Donnelly with REDI Cincinnati, joined by Gavin Campbell. Gavin, thank you so much for coordinating, and thank you all so much for having us here today. I am the Vice President of REDI Cincinnati. I've been on board for about 10 years now in a few different roles, and currently as Vice President of Project Management. I oversee our project managers, our site development, and our talent work, and want to make sure we're just making the rounds to all the communities throughout the region to share who we are, what we've been doing the past couple of years, and what the next couple of years look like. We partner with the Township often through David. Excited to be here tonight. So I've got a lot of slides, but I promise I'll be quick. So I'll be pointing at you a lot to go to the next slide. So REDI stands for the Regional Economic Development Initiative. We oversee the economic development activity for the greater Cincinnati region, and we measure ourselves primarily through businesses' new job creation, new payroll, and new capital investment into the region. We see our purpose is to unite the region to compete globally for economic development projects. So we're a team of about 20 folks, as you can see here on the screen, across four different teams. I oversee the project management team, as I mentioned. Andrea Enders oversees our business development, focusing nationally and internationally on new business attraction. Carrie Pastor manages our operations, investor relations, and engagement. And Gina Rittinger is our marketing lead, ensuring that all of the work that happens in Greater Cincinnati, gets highlighted throughout social media and traditional media. Next, please. Our executive committee is our governing body, chaired by Amy Spiller, who's currently the chair and president of Duke Energy, Ohio, Kentucky for us. Dr. Evie Alessandrini is our current vice chair, who's the COO of Children's Hospital. This group is made up of business leaders and elected officials throughout the tri-state region. And then always, just to make sure I thank our investors. We're a 501c6 nonprofit organization. We've got about 150 investors, public and private. Jobs Ohio being the single largest investor of ours, but the folks on here are the groups that founded REDI in 2014. So I mentioned, next slide please. I mentioned that Jobs Ohio is a significant investor of ours. They're about a third of our budget. And so I just want to spend a moment talking about the Jobs Ohio network. Jobs Ohio was organized in 2013 and funded fully in 2013 by assuming the liquor franchise in partnership with the state of Ohio and used the proceeds from spirituous liquor sales to fund economic development in the state and then provide all tax dollars back to the state along with a profit share mechanism. We are one of 7 throughout the state, and so every county in the state of Ohio is covered by a regional network partner, as we are referred to. And so we've got this kind of hub and spoke model so that as companies are evaluating specific sites and specific communities, we've got regional folks on the ground who are a little bit more familiar than folks just out of Columbus. I'm sorry, if anybody's any questions, please feel free to interrupt. As I mentioned, I will continue to go quickly. Next. Just a quick note on state of Ohio performance last year. You can see the top 5 of 2024 is the lowest ranking of the state last year, and that is in jobs created and total deals, investment, mega projects. You can see really across the board of metrics, the state of Ohio performed very well in the 10 industry sectors that we partner on. Now, REDI is a little bit different than our network partners because of the tri-state region. We actually do business development, marketing, and attraction for the entire tri-state region. That includes 7 counties in northern Kentucky and 3 in southeastern Indiana. We partner often with our friends at One Dearborn and BNKY on efforts there. Essentially, REDI is responsible for being kind of the megaphone, the spokesperson globally for the region. You know, the further you get away from here, the less people know where a specific community is. And so we're out drawing opportunities into the Cincinnati region, and then once they are interested in the region, they kind of have their choice of state and community, which might meet their more specific needs. Please. So when we go to market, this is essentially what we're selling the Cincinnati region. We've got about 1.2 million workers and 2.3 million in population in totality. Median household right around $76,000. And we have a really diverse set of businesses with over 450 foreign-based firms. Our mission is to make sure that we're bringing new business in here, so we're driving new dollars into the greater Cincinnati community. And so having such a good base of foreign direct investment and FDI is really substantial for the community. And then just right below there, you can see kind of where Hamilton County falls within there. Obviously, Hamilton County is the largest of the 15, pretty much by all metrics and measures. Next. Our organization really doesn't control anything we sell. We operate on behalf of the region. We don't own this land we're selling. We don't own, the universities, the hospital systems, or the housing stock. And so it's really up to us to kind of coordinate and aggregate, make sure we're getting the right information out to sell to the market. It's been fairly easy to do that the past few years, of course, with things like Cincinnati Children's being the leading pediatric hospital in the country. We're constantly on lists for top places to live for young professionals and folks graduating from college. We know that CVG continues to be a wonderful international airport with Amazon and DHL cargo hubs. And so this is just a highlight of some of the things that we're out selling as we look to attract folks to the region. Next, please. So in totality, REDI's been around since 2014. We've had just under 800 projects commit to about 68,000 net new jobs and commit $12 billion in investment across the region. Just looking at 2024. Please, thank you so much. Last year, across all 3 states, there were 66 projects won with 4,200 new job commitments. Again, you can kind of see some of the other stats there. If you want to go one more, if we want to hone in on just Southwest Ohio, we had 46 projects with 2,700 new jobs committed in the 5 Southwest counties of Ohio. When we compare ourselves across the Jobs Ohio network index for size and population, we were second across the state as a region in performance last year. Please. And so I just want to take a quick, that's a little bit of who we are, what we've done the past couple years. We just entered into, started at the end of 24 and are launching in 2025 our 3x3 strategy for where we're focusing for the next 3 years. That The basis of that is 3 bold goals, one on booming business, one on unified global brand, and one on engagement and inclusive growth. Next, please. Booming business is really, the bread and butter of the work that we do. About 70 to 75% of our time and budget really falls into this bucket. And this is all about hyper-focused business development. Build for growth is about getting sites ready for productive reuse when opportunities come knocking. And Talent Hub is ensuring that we've got the talent aligned with employer needs when opportunities come. Next is the unified global brand. This is really about marketing and amplifying the business successes that are happening here to ensure that when folks are evaluating the greater Cincinnati region to locate or expand a business into, a lot of times that starts with desktop research. Maybe they're engaging with third-party firms. Either way, though, they're not coming to us to ask us what we think of our own community, right? They're doing this stuff on their own. And so whatever they can find in the news or through research, we're making sure we can get good stories out as wide as we can across the world. And last is engagement and inclusive growth. I mentioned we've got an extremely diverse economy. According to Moody's, we've got one of the top 2% of diverse economies in the country. This is really substantial because as we weather things like economic uncertainty, recessions, things like COVID and other headwinds, this region is not dependent on a single industry, and so it allows us to weather those storms a little bit better than our peers. If you look at data of growth of industries over the past few years, some have higher percentages than us, but we never really had the decline through the COVID time period that some others had. So it makes for a really effective community and well-grounded community to have a diverse economy. So our core industries in this region are on the screen here with advanced manufacturing, life sciences, business and professional services, and technology. You can see some of the size stats on each of those economies and some of the subsectors that we see frequently in our region below that. The top kind of outlines where we are as a region, and then at the bottom you can kind of see where Colerain Township fits into that. So this is where we really focus a lot of our business retention expansion work. Like I mentioned, we've got a diverse economy. We want to make sure these folks have the resources they need to continue to be successful. One of the big changes, if you want to go to the next slide, one of the big changes in our 3x3 strategy is getting much more hyper-specific on what we're going for new attraction opportunities. And this is based off a number of variables, but in the life sciences industries, you can see biomedical research, medical devices, and pharmaceuticals, and then across manufacturing sectors of aerospace, aviation, food, flavoring, and beverage, chemicals, and manufacturing. And this is not just any specific type of operation. This is all the way from headquarters, regional office. It could be back office support, R&D, research, right? There's a whole slew of business operations that could be within any one of those growth opportunities for us. Next, please. And so how are we doing that? We're taking a look at it in a couple different ways. This is a geographic-based strategy where we think that we've got a better right to win than these communities, and these communities have a significant number of our target attraction type companies that are in growth mode. And so you can see we have domestic and international strategies on both of these, varying degrees of if we are in person in these locations. Sometimes we have some contract assistance. Social media allows us to do, and geofencing allow us to get our message out without being actually physically on the ground. But from a geographic standpoint, these are kind of the areas that we're targeting for companies. Next. And then this is an industry-based strategy. Each industry has their own set of kind of trade shows and industry specifics that we need to make sure we're staying in tune with. The bold ones at the top are places that we will have boots on the ground at recruiting companies this year. The ones on the bottom there are other ones that we will be supporting in some other way. The state might be there, Jobs Ohio might be there, some of our other partners might be there. Maybe we'll do some marketing and media separately. And then depending on kind of performance availability, budget, those sort of things, as we move into 26, we can reevaluate. Next. And so how do we work with communities, and when's the right time to give us a call? Although I know David knows this and often does, I just want to make sure we can put this out for you all. So what we see and when our communities are most successful is to make sure that they know what their own community assets are, but not only their own community assets, important to know regional assets. Again, I mentioned when somebody's flying in to visit us for the first time, oftentimes they don't realize it until they do it, that they fly into another state, right? And so we sell the entire region because that's how we live when we're here. You know, maybe we're up in Kings Island for a weekend, or we're down, you know, at a winery in northern Kentucky and all the way in between. So it's understand to kind of know not just your community, but regional assets. Business retention, expansion visits. This is Economic Development 101. And again, with David, we do this a lot. Make sure we're visiting and calling on the companies that are there, having the resources that they need, understanding hurdles. And if you start understanding and seeing, you know, several folks having the same challenges, you know, maybe we can do something about it. Site development's always a big one. The hills here in our region make it very beautiful, also makes it extremely expensive to build on. So we're constantly looking for ways to do infill, creative redevelopment, to make sure we've got product for companies as they're growing, expanding, look for new opportunities. And then other program offerings. We have a whole slew of financial incentives at the state level that we can bring to bear. So don't be shy in giving us a call to see if we have something that might be appropriate. So what type of company can we work with? It's not just the big companies. Minimum of 10 new jobs and $600,000 in payroll is their capital investment, and all of this is over a 3 to 5 year period. So we have resources for small and mid-sized companies as well. Always happy to take a phone call and see if we can be helpful. The next slide is one resource specifically I'd like to call out on that smaller side. The Jobs Ohio Small Business Grant. These are grants of $25,000 or $50,000. A company only needs to have $100,000 in revenue and 1 year in history. Now, they do need to be in a specific sector that we target. Some of the ones that I highlighted on there, it's not for retail or healthcare offerings, but oftentimes people don't realize that we have these really low ceilings that people can get really quick access to grant dollars to support their growth.
The
Perfect
Jobs Ohio program, that was something I was involved in 10 years ago, and it seems like they would help cover the cost of a first-year salary for an employee if you hired from a certain group. That's the same thing we're talking about now?
Ohio Means Jobs does something similar to what you're talking, and then Jobs Ohio, which has the Jobs Ohio Business Grant. Really, this goes to offset capital costs, so it's usually not working capital in this form of
Right.
salary. But Ohio Means
I'd have
Jobs
to
programs are very similar.
Because you mentioned a date back in time, and at that time, the company I was working for, we were actively looking for people and utilizing that program to, you know, help us offset some of the cost of new employees, because with any new employee, you're taking a certain risk, and that helped to mitigate some of that risk when you had, you know, and the couple of them that we got actually did work out quite well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And we still use Ohio Means Jobs in a lot of those programs as well, still in play today.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I don't know what the status of the project is now because it keeps changing, but Intel.
Yeah.
I
I don't know either.
That's right. That's the problem. About 3 years ago, I was on Lieutenant Governor Husted's business development committee that he ran, and we talked about how I guess Intel will not have a supplier within, I think, 60 miles of where the facility will be built, so that they don't steal each other's employees and things like that. Do you perceive that there'll be some opportunities within your jurisdiction for Intel supply chain?
Absolutely, and to your point, the project has slowed down a little bit, a lot of different reasons, and not just the Intel project, but there's a really large Honda LG project as well that's just on the north side of our region as well. And both of them have certain suppliers that they require to be like adjacent to them, and then they have some, as you mentioned, that need to be a certain distance. We already actually have a tremendous number of Intel suppliers in market already. There's about, I think, 40 in our region in totality that have already been supplying them and working with them in one way or another. Jobs Ohio has done a really good job in partnering with the company. You know, I can't say that this happens on every company, but that opportunity is so substantial that this is a little bit unique. But they have a partnering program where, as Intel is moving into the next phase of the project, that they're soliciting Ohio-based employees to support them in new ways, you know, kind of iteratively through the project. So that goes all the way down to the construction aspects of it. It's not necessarily the products, suppliers for the products that have been coming off the line. But yes, I don't know when that time's going to be, but we absolutely expect to be competing for projects like that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. In for Colerain, we were the #1 fire and EMS in the state of Ohio.
We will add it. We
You
will
better
add it
put
to the
that.
list.
Good.
Gavin, did you write that down?
#1.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're coming up to our citizens address. Our citizens address, we give 5 minutes. We have lights here, and we stick to our 5 minutes. And we also want everybody to be aware that the statements and opinions provided by members of the public during citizens address do not necessarily represent the views or positions of Colerain Township, nor they're guaranteed for accuracy. The township does not vet, fact check, or pre-approve any such commentary prior to citizens address. And with that, I have one. Is there any other citizens address that came in? I think I just have one, and it's Carrie Davis.
Welcome.
Hey, first off, I get real squeamish every time you guys call Mr. Cordy, Chief Cordy, to the podium, because I feel like every meeting we're asking him to solve our financial problems, and I feel like we keep putting the onus on him and the people, the officers, to find ways to cut back and to find monies and that kind of thing. And I think when we're in a bad situation like we're in now, that this should be more of an entire entity approach, and every department head should be talking to you about what they've done since the last meeting to save money in their department that we can shift over so we have the best police patrolling that we can get. So I would ask you to spread the burden for the mistakes you made on the budgeting. Also, I wanted to mention this. I've given you suggestions about possible funding, but that 25% of the time where our police department is escorting the fire department, and we know the fire department has a little more money, a lot more money, than the police department. I wonder if you guys could make a contract between the fire department and the police department to funnel some of that money, because they are using their valuable time and taking it away from other duties to provide escort services for the fire department. And I think that would be a legitimate, acceptable expense that you could take money from the bigger pile and put it into the smaller pile and give us the resources we need for our primary duties. The next thing, I'll try to be really quick. I gave you a document. What I did was I went through our resolution, and I was really disturbed by the gentleman who came both here and to the zoning commission meeting, and that woman who said nice things about me, who were talking about their problem with Wawa. And I want to read you a little section. The Board of Zoning Appeals shall have the following roles and powers: to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged by the appellant that there is an error in any order, requirement, decision, grant, or refusal made by the zoning administrator or other official in the interpretation or enforcement of provisions of the resolution. I don't understand why nobody has told him, here's how you go to the zoning appeals, because that's where this belongs. That's their job, is to review his complaint if he doesn't think you're enforcing the rules properly. I personally think there was some fraud involved, a bait and switch, and by Wawa with their plans, because they do not reflect what they did. But you guys are telling our residents to go elsewhere when the solution, I believe, is here. And I provided him with copies of all the pages that talk about berms and barricades and anything that has to do with land movement. I believe our responsibility as a township is the aesthetics and the way the appearance of the facility looks. The soil and water is in charge of the engineering component, and they're totally different areas, but you guys are responsible for that hill, and it's up to you to enforce the rules. On a bigger note, I want to complain because I'm getting lots of concerns from people about zoning. I think we got a major problem in our zoning department. Mr. Miller told me yesterday that in regards to one particular case, that no, they got all the permits they were required to get. And when I went home, I was thinking, don't you need a permit to exchange a fence for a gate? That requires a permit. So I'm very concerned that our leadership in the zoning department is not qualified. I've also heard where the reason that Hill is there is because he was at a meeting up in that field with Wawa developer and other people and told him it's okay to put that mound there. We have multiple, wood thrush property, I'm sure you went and checked it. It was not publicly advertised. At least it wasn't on your website as a publicly bid contract. We are making lots of mistakes. We have a case tonight we're settling. I don't know how much that's costing us, but we are having lots and lots of problems in our zoning department. Not one employee from the top all the way to the bottom meets the minimum qualifications for their job.
Thank you.
And
Ms.
we got
Davis,
a
your
problem.
time's up. Thank you.
so much. Okay, with no one else out there, we will now go to administration reports.
Madam Chair, we only have one administrative report this evening, and that is a reminder about the change in the schedule for our regular board meetings. Starting next at our next meeting, which is June 10th, we're going to have a new start time, and the business meeting is going to begin at 6 p.m. So just want to try to get the word out as much as possible so that folks can be here when we start our meeting.
Okay, thank you. And now it's up to trustee reports. Do either of you want to go first?
Sure. Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning is our annual Memorial Day observance, and it will be up at Colerain in Springdale. And I'd encourage anybody that can make it up to come on up, and we've always had a very nice event there. I continue to give out my cell phone number at every meeting, 513-404-3057, and some of the most recent things that I'm hearing about is the situation over on Burnside with some tall grass, a little looking into it. Sadly, the gentleman passed away a few years ago, and nobody has come along from the family to maintain the property. Some similar issues on down off of Hanley Road on Weiss. The ongoing issues on Wenning. I know Chief has done some work with the bar over at Pippin and Compton, and I'd like to extend my sympathy to the city of Harrison on the sudden loss of one of their councilmen, a guy named Ray Acra, who had done a ton of work out in Harrison and had a very honorable career there, and he suddenly passed away last Thursday, and they've lost a good man for sure. And with respect to Chief Cordy, I think our officers do an exceptional job. You know, when people sign up to be a policeman, they know what to expect. It's not always comfortable to pull people over, and it's never comfortable to go, have to talk to somebody that was just robbed or had their purse taken or had their house broken into or their car isn't where it's supposed to be and all those things. And I think that when an officer applies for that type of work, that's one of the expectations. One of the things that I don't know that our officers go into this knowing until it actually hits them is some of the critique they get from citizens. And I would just like to point out to you, Chief, and to all your officers that our guys do a tremendous job of dealing with complaints from the public. And they keep a cool, calm demeanor. And if you please pass that message back to your group, that I'm very proud of the way they all handle themselves. And that's the extent of my comments.
Okay, awesome.
All right, sorry. I would just say, echo everything Dan said. It's been a busy couple of weeks on solid waste. I just want to update people. Hamilton County Solid Waste Board. We met this Tuesday, 2 days ago, and are scheduled to meet again in August. And it's been floated that they would double the tipping fees. Currently, the tipping fees are what the customers end up paying to put items in the landfill, and right now they're 1, 2, 1. $1, $2, $1, $1 for in district, $2 for out of district, out of county, $1 for out of state. The $1 out of state, that ratio, the ratio cannot exceed the 1, 2, 1, but there's some maneuverability within that. The reason for increasing those fees, and I think it would, at least last time they talked about doubling them, and that would be, the average citizen would be $1.20 annually. I still think that it's a tax at a time when there's a lot of taxes out there, but the rationale for it is to move to more, to perhaps create a compost site in Hamilton County. With obviously the goal of the Hamilton County Solid Waste is to divert waste from the landfill so that the landfill has a longer period to exist. In the first question that somebody asked me as an aside on the board was, well, can we put that in Colerain Township? And I'm like, well, it just so happens that our zoning in Colerain Township says a type 2 facility like that is treated like a solid waste facility, so you can't put it here because we have it zoned out. So it was good to bump up against the guardrails of zoning and say don't even think about it, because I think that we do more than our share for the rest of the county. But they still have an idea of developing a compost site, and again, I think that's significant and important to divert waste. However, I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that still need to be, a lot of work needs to be done. And if you go down to the Rumpke facility in St. Bernard, you'll see the amount of contaminants that actually enter recycling. We've been doing recycling for quite a long time, and we still don't have it right, and it's a learning curve. And the one thing that I brought up is I talked to a couple of people, had kids in Cincinnati public schools and other schools. One thing that this wasn't a thing 5 or 10 years ago, kids drink water all day long. And the amount of water bottles that get put in landfills is significant. And my idea was simply, hey, let's provide funding at government facilities, at schools, to add the refillable water. They actually keep a tally. I have one in my right down the hall from my classroom, and I think it was put in 3 years ago. And I looked the other day, and it had already diverted 68,000 bottles of water. In that same spirit, I was lucky enough to have a one-to-one with Sam Schutte, who's the CEO of Syntheca, and they have built a huge anaerobic digestive facility in St. Bernard. In fact, they've got all kinds of venture capital behind them. I think that really wasn't reported what the total amount was, but Goldman Sachs gave them between $25 and $50 million. They're also building a huge facility in San Antonio. And what they do with the compost is it's not end user, it's manufacturers, and their system is so phenomenal that it can be, you can give it to them in the package, and the system will sort it out. They estimate, they're just online Q2 this year, they estimate that they will divert 200,000 tons from the landfill every year, which is a significant number. And it's really the first kind of plan of that type nationally. The thing that they did, however, that got St. Bernard to agree to have it is that it's privately owned, and they got JED dollars. And the position I take on this is that let the private industry do this. If it's a moneymaker, the private industry will pick that up. Certainly, there could be a public-private partnership, and they turn this into biogas. And again, this is getting a little bit inside baseball here on it. Wyoming, in fact, they have a compost program where they have, I don't know, 6 or 7 huge bins outside, I guess, the city hall, and they partner with Go Zero, which is in I think Upper Arlington, somewhere near Columbus, and they divert that. But that becomes very expensive on real incremental amounts. So the talk with Mr. Schutte was very interesting. In addition, and I haven't been able to talk to him yet, there's a place called Divert, which is, I guess, in Harrison Township, not Harrison City. That's not online yet, but they're partnership is exclusively going to be with Kroger, or mostly Kroger, and they're going to divert an amount from the landfills too. So from that discussion, I actually have, we're trying to work out a date, but myself and Commissioner Driehaus, Ann Gunkel, who teaches teaches conservation at Cincinnati State, and some member of the solid waste staff will be taking a tour of Syntheca within the next month or so, which will be very, very interesting to hear. But the one thing that the other thing I came from the meeting with him that was very interesting, we tried this Recycle Cincy in St. Bernard, and it was a failure for a number of reasons. Some were just systemic on how they set things up. Others were things related to like the smell. And the one thing that with Mr. Schutte, they spent over $20 million in remediating the smell that came from these facilities. So it's the idea that they're going to put it somewhere and people aren't going to complain, and it's just I don't think will happen. And the other thing that was very, very disappointing that I heard kind of one member throw up is that go ahead and put the compost facility in Lincoln Heights at the old shooting range, and I just kind of shook my head because, really? I mean, Lincoln Heights fought forever to get rid of the shooting range. They were crushed by the interstate coming through in the 50s. Maybe it's time to leave Lincoln Heights alone. I'm kind of advocating for them to just, hey, don't build it there. Give them some peace. I think that policy has done enough for that community, and I mean that in a negative way. Like Ronald Reagan said, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help. I think people in Lincoln Heights would say, just let us be. So that was tabled, the fee increase. And look, I know it's only $1.20 a year, but it adds $7 million approximately to the annual income for the Solid Waste Board. And for me, I compare it to like in the day when we first started internet and you hit AOL and you got a disk. You put that thing in your computer and it grew roots. You could never get it out. And my concern is in building in the county owning a facility or the county running a facility is that they've now established another layer of bureaucracy in government, and it's something that they don't do. Let the experts do that. So I will keep you apprised of how that goes, and I'm going to kind of do a survey of some of the other townships. But right now, I guess my question would be to my other two colleagues, because as Dan says, we don't get a time to talk. The way this would be handled if they asked for the increase would be that we as a board would vote. So I ask you to kind of consider where you would be on that, and let me know within the next meeting or two or three, so that I have. I mean, it's episodic data, but it's certainly will help in kind of helping the board decide on that. Because certainly, if it's going to go down in the vote, there's no need to spend all kinds of time and money discussing the possible options. So I know that's kind of long, but that's where we are with solid waste. It's a very important issue, as we all know, in the region and in Colerain. Last time that we had this, when we did the report, I tried to increase the out-of-district fees and do a give back to local communities. I didn't quite have the votes for that, but I'm constantly trying to figure out a way to give this money back to local communities, including the bounty that's given to local communities for recycle. As you may know, we get a certain amount in a recycle fund every year. That's for me, you, and everyone here in Colerain, filling up the recycle bins and putting them at the curb. Mine's filled every single week. It's overflowing, which is something that 10 years ago I didn't do. I thought, why is this can colored green when everything else is brown? It just sat there. So I encourage you, if you have the opportunity, to do that. And I did talk to Rumpke, and I think that right now it's a 42-gallon or 32-gallon, or they have a 96-gallon now. If you do a lot of recycling, you just call the offices, and they'll connect you with that. And you do something good for the environment, and some of that money goes back to Colerain Township. That we have in the past spent on the litter. I think we've spent that fund down a little bit, but in the past we've used that fund for the litter picker uppers. So it has a double impact on things. So with that, I will yield the time, and thank you so much.
I do have a quick question, Matt. You mentioned a Syntheca facility. Is
Yeah.
that the place down at where Vine and Spring
Yeah.
Grove come together at? I get down that way occasionally, and I've seen it being built. Is it operating yet?
It's just became online. It just went online, I think, within the past month.
I'd be real curious to go see how that works.
All right, I'll see if,
Yeah.
well, yeah, we'd have to have it obviously separate, but. you know.
Sure, yeah, get me the guy's contact
Yeah, so
information. and
they've
I
kept
will
it
take
kind of stealth right now, because they haven't been online and they wanted to get the whole facility. So they actually haven't done tours yet, other than like the politicians from St. Bernard. It's actually in St. Bernard itself.
Right. Yeah, and for those who are wondering what he's talking about, when you go north on Spring Grove Avenue to where it terminates into Vine Street, and at the same time, it's the intersection where Vine Street goes north out of St. Bernard and then continues up towards Elmwood Place. It's right there on the
Yes.
corner, and it was nothing 6 or 8 months ago, and it's turned into a huge, very expensive-looking facility.
And St. Bernard was supportive of it because they had a JED on the property, a JED, and it was kind of an industrial area to begin with. I'll just add, I also met with Griffin Industries in Northern Kentucky. I think that company sold recently for like $850 million or something. And they would, if you've seen outside of restaurants, they have the big barrels next to the trash cans that are for the grease trap stuff, and they turn that into alternative fuels as well. And my purpose for meeting with them is, how does this work on a subscription basis? Because if you look at the data across the country, people, even if given the opportunity, the participation rate in compost is fairly low. And I kind of did a little straw poll of my classes, and the people that did the compost, their parents did it at home. So I'm taking a look at this from multiple perspectives to see what the best way is to divert waste from the landfill, and make the earth a cleaner, greener place.
Okay, first and foremost, I want to offer everybody a very happy and safe Memorial Day from all of us. And the 10 o'clock service on Monday is very heartwarming with the bagpipes, and it touches your heart. And I do agree with both of my colleagues up here that our police force is number one. We have got the greatest people that are working for the police force. And with June being around the corner, please check out our website of all the movies and concerts and different variety of fun things that are going to come in June. And we do have the 3rd of July Spectacular, Rozzy Fireworks, and we have the band Second Wind, great ensemble, and we are also looking for sponsors for that. And to harp on Matt's parade, I am very much a proponent for the hefty orange bags. They ended up in a contract with our Rumpke to keep these out of the plastics that nobody wants to recycle, and we can recycle styrofoam, all kind of things. If you buy the hefty orange bags, you put them in your recycle bin, and they go to make park benches, underground PVC piping. So there's lots of ways to keep things out of the landfill. And with that, we're done. We can go to...
Ms. Ulrich, I have a quick question for you. So I think at another meeting you'd brought up the impact of the potential tariffs on the fireworks coming in from China.
I think there was a hold, and we're good on that. It doesn't look
Okay.
like it's going to impact. We were going to have to cut it down a little bit, but I think we're still good.
So I just spoke to somebody from one of my other lives. I have a small business that imports a lot from China, and at one point I was going to get a 144% price increase because of the tariff. And I spoke to somebody at the embassy in China on that, a former student of mine that's kind of been helping me out with that, and that's been put on pause for 90 days. Not the whole thing. I think it's been reduced to about 25%.
And I think we had enough that way in the Rozzy's storeroom that we don't have.
Good.
Okay, so I think we're okay, but we still would need sponsors.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we go to new business now.
Yes, and for the first item of new business, that will be presented by Chief Cordy.
Welcome, Chief.
Okay, the first item here is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. This resolution allows for removal and uncontrolled vegetation and a refuge at the following properties: 6850 Acre, 2850 Breezy Way, 2766 Burnside, 2601 Chester Hill, 6916 Hillary, 7218 Jamarine, 2832 John Rose, 9887 Kittywood, 9658 Laura Linda, 9670 Laura Linda, 3354 Niagara, 3402 Niagara, 8910 Pippin, 2458 Roosevelt, 2480 Roosevelt, 2486 Roosevelt, 10170 Season, and 7155 Swirlwood Lane. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we approve the resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at the properties as described by Chief Cordy.
I'll second that.
And Kittywood did clean that up.
Good.
Thank you for getting out there.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
The next four items are motions to set public hearings for our next board meeting on June 10th, and those will be presented by Mr. Miller.
Welcome.
Going to correct a couple of typos. I think your Thursday meeting is what messed me up.
Okay, we'll go with
So
that.
It'll be your fault. So the first item is a motion to ask the Board of Trustees to set a public hearing. That would be for June the 10th, at our next meeting. It would be for Zoning Commission case CZC 25-2, and that is a text amendment to our zoning resolution to conditionally permit cannabis dispensaries in certain zoning districts. We did have a zoning commission meeting this week, and so I did put May 18th on there. I should say May 20th, since that was 2 days ago. So recommendation is for approval, and the zoning commission passed a recommendation to you, 5-0, for the text amendment that you will see in your packet. And so that would be for cannabis dispensary in zoning districts along Colerain Avenue.
All right, I'll motion to set a public hearing for June 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. to consider zoning commission case CZZ 25-2, zone text amendment to conditionally permit cannabis dispensaries in certain zoning districts.
I'll second.
Mr. Miller, I don't know if that needs to be added, that it would be a retail cannabis dispensary?
That is described in the
Okay.
in the text. So it's going to actually change the current zoning resolution as it pertains to recreational and
Medicinal.
medical.
Yeah.
And so it would eliminate those in lieu of the retail.
And I'd certainly like to hear what people have to say, so I'll support that.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Next item came out of zoning commission as well. It is CZC 25-3. These are zone text amendments, and if you recall, last year, in September, that became effective in October, we passed a new zoning resolution, and it was comprehensive. And with that, as often takes place, there are just some minor technical errors that just got through the process, and so that's what this particular amendment is for, just correcting those technical errors. So again, May 20th instead of May 18th is when the zoning commission had that public hearing, and they had a recommendation of 5-0 in favor of those to you.
I'll motion to set a public hearing for June 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. to consider zoning commission case CZC 25-3, zone text amendment to correct technical errors in the zoning resolution.
I'll second.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Next is a motion to also request a public hearing at the next meeting. And this has to do with the topic of abandoned signs. So a number of years ago, the Planning and Zoning Department went through the township, took pictures to chronicle signs that had been abandoned. They got stuck in the file somewhere, and so nobody ever followed up with that. So with the passage of the new zoning resolution that became effective October of 2024, we have upgraded those regulations regarding abandoned signs. And so now we have a process, and the Board of Zoning Appeals has already heard the case about these two particular signs that we have. We have been able to verify that they are abandoned, and so what we're doing is bringing those to you as a public hearing in a similar fashion that we do with junk vehicles. And so want you to hear it and then declare that as, if you think so, abandoned signs, and then we would abate that problem as well. So the first one is BZA case 25-3, address is 9391 Pippin Road. And recommendation is approval.
A motion to set a public hearing for June 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. to consider Board of Zoning Appeals, case BZA 25-3, declaration of abandoned sign and ordering abatement.
Second?
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
And the final one's similar to the last Board of Zoning Appeals case, BZA 25-5, in a public hearing declaring an abandoned sign and ordering abatement. Address is 3633 Blue Rock Road.
A motion to set a public hearing for June 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. to consider Board of Zoning Appeals case BZA 25-5, declaration of abandoned sign and ordering abatement.
And I'll second.
And David, I would just like to, I think this is your last item. I think you're doing a fine job.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So you know that. Do you hear that from up here?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Yeah.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Okay, administration?
So the next item on the agenda is on page 12 of the board packet. This is a motion to affirm the strategic priorities for 2026. So this board established 6 strategic goals in 2023 with the idea that those goals would be the goals of that we align our budget around through 2026. And as we embark upon the 2026 budget process, we just want to affirm with you that these are the priorities that you want to continue to pursue. Just very briefly here, strategic goal number 1 is to chart a pathway to long-term financial stability. Goal number 2 is to continue to provide high-level or high-quality safety services. Goal number 3 is the revitalization of the community through economic development, beautification, and code enforcement. Goal 4 is to expand recreational opportunities for all ages. And Goal 5 is to continuously improve the operations of the township. And finally, Goal 6 is to make progress on deferred maintenance and reposition existing assets.
I motion that we would affirm the 2026 strategic priorities,
I'll second.
and I think they're listed in a good order.
Yes.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is a resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations. There are really 2 reasons for the amendment of appropriations. One is that the township has received its first half property tax settlement, and with that, we've received the payments for the new TIF districts. And it's kind of, when we're doing budgeting for new TIF districts, it's kind of like trying to hit a moving target, as particularly with the residential TIFs. You know, as the homes come online and are sold, then they hit the tax rolls, and then the following year we start to collect. So these adjustments are to use the real numbers that we have now and set the stage for us to be able to pay the tax collection fees and the compensation payments that are due to the Northwest Local School District. Happy to report that all of these TIFs are performing well. So that is the first bucket of changes and appropriations. And then the second has to do with the Springdale and Pool Road sidewalk projects. We had some bids come in over budget, and this change in appropriations will address that. Staff recommendation is adoption of the motion, or the resolution, excuse me.
I motion we would approve the resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations.
I'll second that.
And thank you for the work you've done on this, and I would just like to comment in a more general sense, when property taxes are levied, this is always going to be a moving target because you never get 100% collection. There's always a certain number of properties that are either in default or in the midst of a estate or being transferred, and they fall behind on their taxes, and eventually it gets caught up, but you do a good job of trying to hone in on exactly as close as you can get, but it's never perfect, and that's why it occasionally has to come back and be revisited.
That's right.
You mentioned that the county had forwarded the property tax collection from, I guess, January.
That's right.
Well, I'm sure it's not 100% of what we were expecting, just because some people, for whatever reason, don't settle up their taxes. So
Yes, and when we go through the budget process, there's actually 2 times where we hedge, I guess is the right word for it, in terms of what those collections are going to be. One, the county does it for us in terms of what they forecast those collections to be, and then we also, we use that number. So I guess that's the real estimate that we use to try to make sure that we don't use a number in the budget which comes up short when it's actually time, or when we actually receive the first and second half settlement.
And I would use the example of not getting 100% collections. One of the nuisance properties we talked about earlier that a resident called me about, I looked into it, and that property is about $15,000. They haven't paid taxes since 2020. Well, because the guy was ill and then he deceased and he didn't have his estate set up. And that particular property is, I just talked to this lady today, it's $15,410 in arrears because he hasn't paid taxes in the last 5 years. And, that's something that a little slice of that would go to the township. Well, that little slice will not show up until that property makes it through the court system, and then it'll come at once, but it's on 5-year delay right now. And that just happens all the time, not just here in Colerain, but anywhere. It's just an ongoing situation. So thank you for the work you've done on this.
2 observations I want to make. I had just talked about the recycling incentive that for this period was $112,475.
I believe that is the appropriation, which also pulls from prior year fund balance.
Right, okay. So it's usually around 40 or 50.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe this one came in a little over 43,000.
Okay, so that's a fantastic job on folks recycling, and so that we get that incentive. And I'd also like to thank my fellow trustees and also Trustee Raza Kapal. When I first got here 5 years ago, there was a general distrust and dislike of TIFs. We had a couple, Kroger being one, Duke, I think another, in Colerain Town Center. And if you look at these numbers, the amount of revenue that the township is getting from the TIFs is fairly significant. And this is very, very early on in a lot of these TIFs. So thank you, everyone, for supporting that effort. I think that ultimately in the long term, that's going to make a huge difference.
Looking at the Northridge one, it says $135,000, and that's something that did not exist.
Right. Yeah, or Dunlop Grove is new. I mean, some of these are within the past 2 years. Abbeytown,
Beavis, the old Beavis School's coming in there. That's
Lake Gloria, Crosley Meadows, Copper Creek.
lots of coming.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. So, and thank you for the staff for working on all those TIFs as well.
And as we say, if you go online and look up our agenda, you will see the document that the 3 of us see right now, and it's there for anyone to see. I have no other comments on the resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The last item of new business is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a consent decree in substantially the same form for 9872 Green River Drive. Staff recommendation is adoption of the motion.
A motion to authorize Township Administrator to execute a consent decree in substantially the same form for 9872 Green River Drive.
I'll second.
And this is revenue positive, not negative.
That's correct.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
No.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. There is no old business, so.
Madam Chair, I do have a motion to enter, if you would entertain it. Each one of the trustees gets a discretionary fund. I think I have approximately 80,000 left in my discretionary fund. What I'd like to do at this time is motion that whatever is remaining in my discretionary fund be moved to the police department for the 2026 year. So I don't know if there's a way that can be held and we can get some interest till then, but what's remaining will be bumped to 2026. I guess you'll probably have to do some kind of amended appropriations, but I'd like to do that however it's done.
I will second. Is that a motion, Matt?
Yes.
I will second Matt's motion to do that. Is that possible to do?
Yes, so, yeah, we are able to do that. If it is an actual transfer, then we will bring a resolution back to this board to move the funds from the general fund
That's
to the
fine.
police fund.
And in the exact amount, I don't know what I think it's 80-ish.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you both.
So, the items on the consent agenda, there are 3 of them. The first is a promotion for a full-time firefighter EMT in the Department of Fire and EMS for James Dietrich at a rate of $22.56 per hour. The second is the reclassification of an employee, a part-time firefighter, paramedic, fixed apparatus operator, also in the Department of Fire and EMS. That's David Wegman at a rate of $24.08. And then finally, there's a donation acceptance also in the Department of Fire and EMS. This is from the Eschenbach family. It's a Kroger gift card for $100.
I motion we would approve the consent items as presented.
I'll second. And thank you from the Eschenbach family.
Yes, thank you as well, and congrats to James Dietrich and David Wegman.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Okay, is there fiscal officer report?
I do not see the fiscal officer present, so there's no report.
So we're going to say no right now. Okay, and then is there another need for an executive session?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, Kathy seconded.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Okay, we are officially adjourned at 8:02. Thank you for tuning in and coming tonight.
Thank you.